Week 7 has come to a close, and now we're in Week 8 of the NFL season. Season is going by fast. A little too fast. I don't want it to end after waiting for so long for this to start. But we're already almost halfway through the season. And how'd I do this week? Not very good, actually. I dropped out of the top 10,000, and now I'm only in the top 5% rather than 1%, which quite unfortunate. I was expecting this week to follow the trend of upsets. No, it was actually a pretty normal week. The first game was a big upset. Nobody expected the Bengals to show up, and we weren't expecting an actually exciting Thursday night football game. The Bengals have looked terrible on offense all season since Joe Burrow has come out. In fact, they didn't actually look all that great with Joe Burrow, but he wasn't in long enough to really see anything. Next game, I kind of predicted an upset, but it was kind of more even. Both of them were 4-2. The Jaguars had a winning record in London. I was not expecting a blowout like this. This was a bad game to watch. The Bears actually proved me wrong this week. They beat a team that was honestly a trap team. They nearly gave it away, but they hung on in the end to get a comfortable win. And now I did pretty solidly for most of the week. Hit a 50-50 matchup. Turns out the Colts are actually for real. They beat another good team. So now I will actually take the Colts a little bit seriously. What I wanted to see from them was them to beat actually good teams and not just beat up on bad teams. Well, they beat a good team. So, I probably say it's pretty fair to pick them most weeks at this point. So, hey, the Colts proved me wrong. The Packers, this wasn't entirely off base. They nearly gave this one away. Their defense actually stepped up in the end, though. So, there we go. And then, I was expecting the Falcons, who beat the Bills, to show up against the JV squad. They did not. And then I actually picked the Monday night games correct, so whoop-de-doo. Spread picks weren't great either. I guarantee most people had a definitely hard time, and the fact that I'm now in the upper percentile of spread picks despite missing the first 2 weeks, that kind of says something. I guess it's mostly a lot of people just not picking, so that's why I was able to get into the upper half, but hey, at this rate, this may continue to rise as long as I have a winning record every week. Spread is hard. First game, wrong. Second game, wrong. Third game, wrong. Picked a few games right. Turns out the Raiders did not make it close. The Chiefs usually do not win big spread games. This was the one exception because it looks like the old Chiefs are kind of back. Of course, I missed the Chargers. I missed the Falcons. But one game I actually surprisingly missed was the Buccaneers and Lions. I was expecting the Buccaneers with Mike Evans back to at least make this close. I wasn't expecting Igbuka to play. He really shouldn't have. He was not very effective. And the Lions, well, they didn't have that big of a performance. I wasn't expecting them to. I was just expecting the Bucs to show up. They didn't. But let's actually get these games correct, I've been saying I'm the most accurate picker, and I haven't been for the past few weeks. I need to get that back. I probably won't name this video the most accurate picks because these have not been accurate at all. So you've seen the different title, but let's actually try to get these games correct so I can start naming these videos accurate. Anyways, I'm picking the Chargers. I expect them to come back after losing to a good team. And the Vikings, well, they're still missing their quarterback. I don't really trust Carson Wentz all that much. I actually don't really trust any quarterback they put out there. JJ McCarthy has not been in the game. The one full game he played one good quarter. And that's it. So, Chargers, they are the better all-around team, but this could actually be a fairly close game because the Vikings defense is very good, and the Chargers are pretty injured on that offensive line, so they still won't have Amari and Hampton, which could be a problem, but I trust Justin Herbert this game. And the spread, I'm actually not super comfortable with this spread. I would have liked to see this lower than 3. I'm still going to lean the Chargers, but this is kind of low confidence, to be honest. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins versus the Falcons. Oh boy, this is one of the matchups this week. Look, if the Falcons can't win this matchup, we have serious problems. like consistency problems, because the Dolphins are hot garbage. Everything has been going wrong for them. And the Falcons, well, they are very inconsistent week to week. You know, when I thought they put 2 good weeks back to back, I thought, hey, maybe this is the real Falcons offense. Then they put up a stinker against the 49ers, so I don't know what's the real Falcons offense. Is it the good? Is it the bad? I'm not sure yet, but I'm still picking the Falcons because they have so much talent on that offense. They should be able to beat the Dolphins, right? Spread, hilarious, but I've seen the Falcons blow teams out, so I'm going to pick the Falcons here. Now we have the New York Jets and Cincinnati Bengals. Another not very interesting matchup. This wasn't interesting from the start of the season. The Jets have benched Justin Fields for Tyrod Taylor. Might make this game slightly more interesting because the Bengals defense is still not good. But hey, they've looked better on offense with Joe Flacco. Hey, as long as the quarterback has the first name of Joe, they're probably going to be good. Maybe. They have some great receivers. Joe Flacco actually got the ball to the receivers. They might have something rolling. I mean, the Jets aren't good all around, but Tyrod Taylor could give them a spark, so I would not be surprised if there's an upset here, but I don't predict an upset happening because I picked the Bengals this week. I will actually be kind of mad if I say, hey, there might be an upset. Upset happens and I still don't pick the upset. Predicting is hard. Anyways, the spread, no. 6.5, way too much. I know it's the Jets, but it isn't the Justin Fields Jets. If Justin Fields was still starting this week, I'd go for the 6.5. Tyrod Taylor, when he's been in, well, he wasn't very good last week, but I've seen him be decent. So I'm actually going to take the Jets on the spread here. Next up, we have the Browns and Patriots. These matchups are super great this week. I mean, the best football you'll ever watch. Who made this schedule and why did they put all the bad games in week 8? This would not have been a good game from the start of the season. I mean, the Patriots are 5-2 and trying to compete for the division crown, which is a bit more than I expected out of them. They actually looked good. They beat a bad Titans team last week. They looked fine. It wasn't the greatest of games, but hey, they beat them pretty easily after a little bit of a first half scare. The Browns, you know, Dylan Gabriel hasn't been too bad, and Quinshon Judkins has been solid. It's just, I don't think the talent is that good. The Patriots have shown to be actually pretty consistent so far. Outside of a few early season stumbles, they've been winning games they should, and even games they shouldn't have. So I'm going to pick the Patriots here pretty easily. And the spread, I don't trust the spread again. I don't think the Browns are that bad. Like I said, Dylan Gabriel hasn't been all that bad. And the people even think this spread is too much for the Patriots. We got 46% picking the Browns. I'm going to be one of those 46% because this spread is way too much. I actually think this will be within a score. The Browns aren't terrible. And the Patriots, though beating the Titans pretty easily, wasn't exactly the most inspiring of performances. Plus, the Browns have a good defense. So this could be a fairly close game. Next up, we have a divisional matchup against the Giants and Eagles. A rematch from a few weeks ago where the Giants blew out the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. That was a genuine surprise game that they brutalized the Eagles, who honestly up to that point were not playing all that great. They looked better in the second half against the Vikings, but the first half was still not very good, and my worries about the Eagles have not subsided. Yeah, the Vikings are a decent team, and they won in the end, but they were doing that earlier in the season and then lost some upsets, so I don't fully trust them yet. Jalen Hurts actually looked good against the Vikings, though. Like, he was actually throwing the ball much better than he was the previous week. The Giants, they kicked their kicker to the curb after losing against the Broncos. They were leading that entire game, and their kicker legit lost them the game there. Well, so did the defense, giving up 33 points in the fourth quarter. How do you even manage to do that? I don't know. Jackson Dart and the offense played well for most of the game. I mean, they even went on a final drive to seal the game, supposedly. And then their kicker missed the PAT, and they lost the game with like 30 seconds left on the clock. As a Giants fan, you can be mad and not mad at the same time. Like, you were really close to beating a good team, but then again, you should have really beaten that really good team. So I'm actually going to pick the Giants here because I still don't trust the Eagles. And last time these two teams met, the Giants blew out the Eagles. I don't think it'll be a blowout this time. I actually think it'll be a little bit closer. But the Giants should be taken fairly seriously. Maybe as a dark horse wildcard team. And the spread, easily Giants. I would have picked the Giants anyway. Next, we have the Bills and Panthers. If you told me the Bills and Panthers would have the same record in week 8, I would be very concerned about the Bills. Turns out the Panthers will just beat bad opponents. I mean, their schedule has been pretty easy so far. They've won the games they, I guess, not really should have because nobody had expectations for them, but they aren't 4-3 by accident. The last game looks like an accident. I mean, they just stood there and let the Jets die on the field. It was very uninspiring. Meanwhile, the Bills are coming off a bye week, which they really needed because they have 2 straight losses against teams they weren't really expected to lose to. And now they're behind in the division, so they really need this game. I predict them taking this game because I trust Josh Allen a lot more than I trust Bryce Young. They will be getting some injured players back, which is very important for them. They were pretty hurt on defense. I'm still worried about the Bills. In fact, the spread, 7.5, in my opinion, is a lot. It's a toss-up for me, to be honest. Do I think the Panthers can put up a lot of points? Or do I think the Bills will underperform? Or do I think the Bills will actually perform how they're supposed to off a bye week? I think the Bills will perform how they're supposed to and beat them by 2 scores. Not like 14, maybe like 10. Something like that. Next up, we have probably the most interesting 1 p.m. game this week, the Bears and the Ravens. The Bears have actually been playing pretty decently so far. They're beating teams they should and a few teams they shouldn't. Bears, they've looked pretty solid over the past few weeks. I'm actually fairly impressed. I did not think the Bears would be performing like this early on with a new head coach. But it's working out for them so far. And the Ravens, well, I wasn't expecting that performance out of them either. But granted, half their team was injured, but they are expected to get Lamar Jackson back this week, which is huge for them. Problem is, hamstring injuries are notorious for being around and definitely affecting the play, which for Lamar, who is a very mobile quarterback and relies on that mobility, he could be hampered a little bit, which I have my concerns about, which is why people consider this pretty much a 50-50 game. I mean, 49% to 51%. Right down the middle, basically. It's a tough pick because Ravens have been losing to teams they really shouldn't have and have been really hurt. And how well do you think Lamar is going to play after coming off that injury? The Bears, they've been rolling pretty good. They beat the Saints last week. It wasn't the greatest of performances, but you take wins where you can get them. Winning is hard, and the Ravens have found that out since they only have 1 win on the season. They really need to win this game. If they take many losses in the second half of the season, they're not making the playoffs. So they desperately need this win, and I think they will get it. This will start their comeback arc. And the spread, I'm taking the Bears here. 6.5 for the Ravens. No. This is going to be a close game because the Bears have looked decent. The Ravens defense, though getting some of their starters back, has still not been very good. And I don't know how good Lamar is going to play after that hamstring injury. Plus, he doesn't have a whole lot of receivers. And Derrick Henry has looked a bit washed. So I think this will be a fairly close game. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Bears win this. It's pretty much a 50-50 game. We have our last 1 p.m. game with the 49ers and Texans. I have a question why this is a 1 p.m. game, but then again, who'd want to watch this in the late afternoon slot? The Texans aren't good. They did force a lot of turnovers last week, but the offense is not good. And despite the 49ers being super injured on defense, I still do not think the Texans offense is going to do anything. And the 49ers offense is just Christian McCaffrey. That's, to be honest, all they need. Christian McCaffrey. He's going to score on any defense and get a lot of yards. The only person they can rely on. They do have George Kittle back, who didn't show up last week. He was playing, supposedly, and they might get Ricky Pearsall this week, which will help their receiving game a little bit, but they're still really badly hurt. But hey, at least CMC is healthy. That's all they need. They can't really afford to lose many games with how competitive that NFC West is. I'm going to be picking... Why did it do that? I'm picking the 49ers. I don't know why it unclicked. Spread. Wow, this is actually a very favorable spread. I'm still taking the 49ers, but this makes it very easy. Next, we have the Buccaneers and Saints, another divisional matchup. This one's not very interesting, on paper at least. I mean, the Saints have hung around in most games. The Buccaneers are coming off a pretty brutal loss with their receiver in Mike Evans and against the Lions. That was a very poor showing, but when you lose your top receiver, it's going to be very difficult to win, especially when your other top receiver is still hampered with an injury. They might get some players back, which is good. They might get Bucky Irvin back. Igbuka will hopefully be a little more healthy. And the Saints defense isn't very good. So I trust the Buccaneers to actually score some points this week and win this game. Spread. You know what? For how the Buccaneers were playing last week, this is actually a pretty fair spread. So I'm going to take the Buccaneers here. 5.5, usually not my favorite, but this is a matchup where I think it's fair. Next up, we have the Cowboys and Broncos. This is actually a pretty great matchup. The Cowboys have been scoring points on everybody, and the Broncos put up their best offensive showing so far. Well, at least offensive showing for one quarter, because the first 3 quarters were an absolute disaster. But their defense is supposedly good. They weren't good last week, so maybe they got some vulnerabilities on defense that the Cowboys can exploit. This is actually a very tough choice for me. Like, on one hand, the Cowboys are putting up points on everybody, one of the best offenses this year, and on the other hand, the Broncos are supposedly a pretty good defense, but their offense showed up, and the Cowboys' defense is not very good. Literally opposites. The Broncos offense hasn't been good for most of the season. The Broncos defense has been very good for most of the season. The Cowboys offense has been good. The Cowboys offense has been good most of the season, but their defense has not. So, fun dilemma. Good against good, bad against bad. Pretty interesting which side ends up working out, but I'm going to pick the Broncos here. I don't think enough people are picking the Cowboys, so they are being a little bit underrated here, but their defense has been pretty bad. So, and with how the Broncos showed up last week in the fourth quarter, maybe they don't score 30, but hopefully their defense actually steps up this week. And the spread, actually fair spread. Man, this is a tough choice. I'm actually going to take the Cowboys here in the spread. I think this will be whoever gets the ball last at the end of the game, or whoever makes the big play at the end of the game. This will be a pretty back and forth matchup in my opinion. Now we have the Titans versus the Colts. I mean, anytime you see the Titans playing a team, like, you'd be genuinely surprised if they put up 2 scores in that game. They are averaging a single touchdown a week. They have 7 touchdowns on the season. That's embarrassing. Their offense has not been good, and firing their head coach has not helped. They lack talent everywhere, and their coaching staff is not very good. Meanwhile, the Colts, direct opposite. They have talent everywhere, and the coaching staff has been good. So, is there really much to say? Look, even if they lost last week, I would still be picking the Colts here. The Colts have shown to blow out bad teams, so I expect pretty much the same here. And the spread, the rare case that I will ever pick a double-digit spread, just because of how bad the Titans are and how good the Colts have been against bad teams. I mean, you saw literally every game they were playing against a bad team. They were putting up 3 scores on them. Well, not really. They were winning by 3 scores. So, Colts here, massive win. Despite this being a pretty straightforward game, this is a big game for the Colts because you want to win every division game you can. And with the Jaguars, well, kind of fallen apart the past few weeks, but still on their heels, they can't really afford to slip up in the division, so they need to keep winning these games. Now we have the Packers and Steelers for Sunday Night Football. You know what? This is actually an interesting matchup. Aaron Rodgers faces his former team, and I mean, he's been pretty good on his new team, getting a little bit of a career resurgence after being on the Jets. Yeah, most players will end up doing that. The Packers, meanwhile, they've been winning games, as many as the Steelers. But the Packers, I don't really trust them all that much. Again, the same problems I've been seeing on their offense have still been occurring. Their defense has been bailing them out, like they did last game. I mean, they nearly lost, but they got a crucial sack on that final drive to basically clinch the game for them. The Steelers, well, an unfortunate loss against the Bengals. Their defense decided not to show up against Joe Flacco and that offensive line, which is pitiful. But their offense did, which is not something you would have expected at the start of the season. When they need to, the offense has shown up. So, you know what? I actually trust the Steelers a little bit more in this game. The Packers offense, they just keep playing around with fire, and it's just going to bite them over and over again until they can actually get rolling on offense. Their defense has been good in bailing them out in games. I don't think the defense will bail them out in this game, so I'm picking the Steelers. And the spread, that's actually kind of disrespectful to the Steelers. A 3.5? Really? The Packers, really? I'm picking the Steelers. And the last game of the week, we have the Commanders versus the Chiefs. Man, this was a great matchup looking from the start of the season. Now this kind of sucks. The Commanders, they're probably going to be missing Jaden Daniels this week. They're missing their receivers. I mean, the Commanders, they are dealing with a lot of injuries, and unfortunately, their backup quarterback isn't very good. And the Chiefs, meanwhile, they've been rolling. Their offense has turned back the clock and started to look really good again. I mean, they've been looking great since the Giants game. It's just their defense has been a little bit questionable over the past few weeks, but last week, they shut out the Raiders. It's hard to shut out any team in the NFL, so that alone is impressive. I don't think the Chiefs will shut out the Commanders this week, but I don't think the Commanders are going to be scoring a lot of points. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, they're going to score as many points as they need and win this game. And the spread, rarely go with the double-digit spread. However, the Commanders missing their star quarterback and star receivers, I'm going to be picking the Chiefs here. I mean, the Chiefs, I wasn't expecting them to blow out the Raiders like that because they usually don't do that. Not after the past few years, but looks like their offense is back rolling, and I think this will be a very clean game for them. It'll probably be like 34-13 for them, so easily cover the 10.5. But that will be my picks for this week. Let me know what you think in the comment section below and what your picks are for this week. And let me know by the end of the week if I actually did well. I hope so. There's only 13 picks this week, so I really need to be super accurate this game if I want to climb the rankings again. Hopefully I'll be higher up next week. But I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.